I've come here to find out if an average cyclist, like me, could beat a top athlete through a simple but very cunning ruse, borrowing an extremely expensive bike. We're pitting a £6,000 Tour de France machine against bikes which are either very cheap or designed to be comfortable and practical, not quick. To make it fair, my opponent is a Herne Hill regular who races at national level. So what makes a difference? The rider or the bike? Herne Hill's seen more than 120 years of racing, including the 1948 London Olympics. At its peak, it drew crowds of more than 10,000 people. Today's pretty unscientific test might be a bit less glamorous, but I still think we could learn some interesting things. Might be nice to have a few people turn up though. Well, Iain, the good news, as you know, is that we have this incredibly flash carbon fibre £6,000 kind of Tour de France machine. The bad news is you're riding this one.
Lovely.
Which is Evans Cycles' Lithium Pinnacle, and it's the most basic in their range. It's £250. But to me, it still looks like a pretty functional bike. How do you reckon you're going to fare?
I reckon it's going to be a close one. It's, you know, all the gears look like they're going to work well. It's got nice sort of roadworthy tyres. It's not a mountain bike. It's not the cheapest bike you can buy. I think it'll be pretty close.
Could you talk me through, if you were hypothetically riding this one, which you're not going to be, what advantages would you get? Would it be the riding position?
So the position's a big part of it, because just for getting your power out, but also the whole bike is just made for aerodynamics. If you look at it, all the profiling on the tubes, everything like that.
Okay. Stealth fighter,
just cuts through the air like nothing. So yeah, over time, that really just stops your energy from draining, whereas on this, I might be struggling towards the end of the race. So, the rules. Each race is just 2 laps of the 450-metre track. It's not long, but plenty enough to spot the difference between a finely honed, naturally gifted athlete and a plodder whose professional life involves a desk rather than a bike. Luckily, we've evened things up a bit. There I am, proudly posing with my bike, a £6,000 BMC, as seen right now racing on the Tour de France. For some reason, Iain's not posing with his bike. It's by no means bad, but it is one of the cheaper off-the-shelf machines at Evans Cycles, with a price tag of just £250.
5, 4,
OK, it's racing orders.
2, 1.
And we're off! It's a very slow start for me, and I'm really showing my inexperience. I'm weaving miles from the racing line. Iain's keeping it very tight, and just look at his pedals go! The Pinnacle might be cheap, but it's still got 21 gears, and Iain's using them to wring out every bit of speed. Oh, little check over the shoulder there, just to see if he's on my tail. And into the straight. There's very little wobble in the bike. The thing just cuts through the air. It's built for speed, unlike me. First lap almost done, and it's a chance to see who's ahead and by how much. And it's Iain, on a bike that costs 4% of the BMC's price. And that's me, over 4 seconds slower. I'm really going to have to pedal harder. It's a definite 1-0 to the man. I'm still way out of position, miles off the racing line. And even though the hybrid's built for comfort, Iain can still get down low and he's sprinting hard for the finish. And there he goes! So where am I? I'm here somewhere. There I am! Nearly a 7-second gap between Iain and me after just 2 laps. Incredible. You can even call it humiliating. Well, even with the advantage of that bike, for you that was almost a bit too easy. You beat me quite.
It was easier than I thought, actually.
So that £250 bike was actually quite nippy, isn't it?
Yeah. Not as quick as yours, but it'll do the job.
Well, as you can see, that was sufficiently easy that we've given you a much tougher challenge now. This is actually my bike. It's a Dutch-made kind of shopping bike, which I usually do take to the shops, or I take my son. This isn't my son. This is obviously a fake baby, I should point out. I mean, it's called a Gazelle. It should be called a Rhino, really, because it weighs a ton. What do you think the disadvantage of this bike will actually be?
So the weight is going to be hard to get going. Again, the position's even worse than it was on the hybrid for racing on.
It's a very upright bike, isn't it?
These weren't designed to do lots of different things. It is just for going and getting your shopping and milling around town. It's going to be hard to get some speed going on it.
And it wasn't heavy enough. We've added in the fake baby here. We've got some copies of a certain newspaper we had lying around spare too, to mimic the going down to the shops thing.
Yeah. At least I'll be more comfortable on this one.
You'll be very comfortable. You're extremely comfortable. And so, the second race. And I'm sticking with a bike that costs roughly the same as a small car. Iain's also on a bike which costs about the same as a small car. A very, very small car. Saw that usually comes with a remote control.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Here we go. And a very wobbly start from Iain. The flex in the frame and the weight distribution means he's wasting lots of pedalling power. The upright position doesn't help either. It's hard to crouch down low when there's a shopping basket in the way. Chris Froome doesn't have to worry about that. Doesn't look like the baby's enjoying it much either. Now that's a much, much better racing line for me, and just look how smooth the ride is on the BMC. It's like it's on rails. So, halfway through, let's see who has the advantage. Well, I'm leading Iain, but by how much? It's a full 5-second gap. So what's been the difference this time?
It's just the extra weight of it, and it's just kind of dragging you back, and it's less aerodynamic, it's just less efficient at high speeds. It's not what it's designed for, whereas your BMC is just completely built for it.
I mean, even by the standards of modern road bikes, this has got all the kind of aero stuff in it, all the brakes are recessed, it's got electronic gears. As soon as you get on it, you stand on the pedals and just all the power goes. And that's, I guess, where you get your £6,000 worth, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all the little bits that just add up to a big difference.
But how much of a difference, Iain? That's what we want to know. And I'm first over the line. Now, where's Iain? Where is Iain? Did he stop to read one of those newspapers? No, here he comes, a full 10 seconds behind. It's a first win for the bike.
Whew. Well, that was very different, wasn't it?
That was much, much harder for me that time, yeah.
Well, we set you an even more, perhaps arguably impossible challenge now. A Barclays cycle hire bike, commonly known as a Boris bike. Now, my worry with this is the gears won't be high enough.
I think that's probably fairly fair. There's only 3 gears on it, and I think I'm probably going to be starting in the middle gear, so going to run out of gears quite quickly. But
whereas this has
we'll see what
got
we can
20
do.
gears. So
Yeah.
again, it's not a fair fight. But you are the national level rider, and I'm the kind of pottering around middle-aged man. So we'll try it.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
And it's a final outing for me on the BMC. And I've got to say, it's going to take a crowbar to get this bike off me. And judging from appearances, someone did actually use a crowbar to lever this Boris bike out of its dock. It's battered, it's heavy, and it's undergeared. But if anyone can make it go quickly, Iain can. So it all comes down to this. Tied after 2 races, it's a showdown between the Boris and the BMC to decide it all. Who takes the glory, the man or the bike? Oh, and it's a better start this time from Iain. That stiffer frame's really helping. But look, he's already shifted into 3rd, and that's his top gear. If he wants to go any faster, it's all down to pedalling speed from now on. The BMC's gliding through the straight. Going fast on this thing is completely effortless. Coming up to the very final lap, you can see how the gears and riding position on the Boris are really taking their toll on poor Iain. The BMC crosses first, but how far behind is Iain? 4 seconds, that's less than when he was on the Dutch bike. Iain's clearly putting every ounce of energy in dragging that heavy thing around the track. I'm not risking complacency. Even if I wanted to slow down, I don't think the bike would allow it. It's impossible to ride slowly on this thing. Iain's right behind, but a gap's opened up. There's nothing he can do now to make that bike any quicker. It's a final bend before the home straight. And it's a win for the bike. A triumph for engineering over human effort, even if, frankly speaking, it wasn't really a fair fight. But how much will the gap be? How much did that weight and low gearing affect Iain's performance?
This is the first time you've actually ever ridden one of these bikes.
Yeah, it's the first time I've ever ridden a Boris bike at all.
And you've raced it.
And now I've
Which is
raced
not
it,
Norway,
yeah.
thing.
I've probably got the track record at Herne Hill for it.
Well, as we thought, I won, but certainly the first half lap it was closer than I thought. You were keeping up. It was actually quite quick to start
I
off
was
with, wasn't
surprised how quickly I got going on it, actually. I think because they're so solidly built to last, they're quite stiff for getting started, so you can really get going on it. But then, yeah, starting to run out of gears, and this saddle just isn't made for spinning your legs fast.
it? Yeah, and the longer it went on, the more time I gained.
Yeah.
That's very much it, but it wasn't really fair.
No.
So, a questionable victory, but still victory, and against a national level rider. What have we learned? It's not just about price, it's about a range of things, mainly riding position, gears and weight. But most of all, it's about using a bike that's fit for purpose.